Economic disparity, the monster that needs to be killed at the earliest. The role of the corporates. The corporates have not only been busy in generating wealth by commercializing even those activities that were not meant for commercialization, and by creating conditions often at the cost of healthy, family peace and social equilibrium, favoring the sales of their products, they have also taken every possible step to monopolize wealth. They have achieved this by giving more importance to economics than any other department of social life, establishing a banking system that puts at their disposal colossal public money with which they generate huge profits, while giving virtually nothing to the real owners of that money, establishing stock exchange that attract the public money at much less risk and conditions than the banks, supporting a tax system that enables them to part with the least possible portion of their possessions, maintaining an inflationary trend which enables them to recover most of the money they have to pay as taxes or interests, insisting on increasing privatization that helps them expand businesses, projecting misleading statistics and criteria of development, changing the taste and perceptions of the people through steady campaigns. When the corporates use their own money, they seek to make huge profits out of it, but when they use the public money, channeled through banks, financial agencies and stock market, they are willing to pay the people only a negligible portion of the profit they have amassed through that money. Whatever is paid to them is channeled back by way of inflation. This exploitation has to be countered, if economic justice is to be brought to the denizens of the earth. To achieve this grand objective, two major changes in the industrial setup will have to be brought about as early as possible. First, there should be an equal share in profits between investing partners and working partners. Secondly, the minor shareholders, who together often own about half of the total shares in the company, must play a more active role in the affairs of the company so that the directors do not exploit or cheat them, depriving them of their money. This can be achieved by the creation of a minor shareholders association in every company. The office bearers of the association can be elected at regular intervals. The representatives of the association must be among the directors of the company, their number depending upon the shares they represent. This would enable them to ensure that the interests of minor shareholders are not compromised, they get due share in the profits. The major shareholders do not use companies' money for their own inflated expenses, are continuously in the know of the state of affairs, and in case the company is suffering losses, these are not entirely thrust upon them, minor shareholders. This would also help them in receiving dividends at regular intervals, and the directors would find it difficult to withhold them in the name of residual value. Inflation and pricing mechanism. Either the forces of governance hide the truth or they don't understand it. If they understand, they do not exhibit it. If they do not exhibit it, it is because they do not want to act on what they know. The result is what we see. Inflation is talked about day and night in the rallies, gatherings and media, but not controlled. We have been made to believe that inflation rate can be reduced to some extent, but there can never be zero inflation. This is despite the fact that the intrinsic value of all goods and services almost always, if not always, remains the same. It may sound bizarre, but to me inflation is a sign of failing economy under natural circumstances. If inflation is there, ideally it should mean that the supply is lesser than the demand, which means a failure of economy. But in practice, nothing is natural. Whatever happens on the economic scene is almost all maneuvered by the forces of economics with the help of their cronies. Every political party talks of inflations. Elections are won and lost on the basis of the failure of controlling inflation. But none has the guts to discuss the truth. More often than not, the people engaged in the supply of agricultural goods are blamed for the problem. Often the government is censured for raising the prices of petroleum. The media is in control of the corporate houses. The institutions teach the theories of economics that have been propounded by the theorists recognized by the corporates as genuine economists. The result is that the role of corporates is hardly ever discussed. The model of growth, which is in force in the country, is one of growth with monopolization and not the one of growth with distribution. the policies related to the establishment of industries, pricing mechanism, the tax structure all are aimed at strengthening and preserving their monopolization module. These all culminate in inflation and ever-increasing economic disparity. What is conveniently forgotten by all the political and economic pundits is the role of the corporates in inflations. While the participants in the supply of agricultural products are cursed, nobody dares to ask the question, are consumer products of the industries justly priced? When the goods of the market are priced much higher than their intrinsic values and the people are lured to use industrial products in increasingly larger quantities, the pressure on the pockets will also compel those involved in agricultural production and smaller businesses to increase the prices of their products, and the laborers will also be compelled to increase the prices of their services. What is required to curb inflation on a long-term basis necessitates the following steps. First, revision of inflation basket of the country. Not only the consumer price index should replace the wholesale price index, which is currently the policy in India, we need to revise the list of the items of the basket itself. The current basket mainly includes three categories. Primary articles. The prices of these articles would impact our daily sustenance and it hits the poor hardest. This part of WPI, constituting 20.12% of the index, compares prices of all basic material, including food and non-food articles. Among food articles, some of the main heads are food grain, fruits and vegetables, eggs, meat and fish. In the non-food subgroup, some of the major heads under which prices for specific items are compared are fiber and oil seeds. Fuel and power. Life, especially in urban areas, is hard to imagine without power or fuel. This part of the index compares prices for all materials and items needed to produce power and fuel. It constitutes 14.91% of the overall index. This group consists of three subgroups: coal, mineral oils and electricity. The subgroup mineral oil has the maximum weight of 9.36% of the overall index. Items, such as kerosene, diesel, liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, and petrol, fall in this category. Manufactured goods. This constitutes the largest part of the index, 64.97%. There are many subgroups in this category. Some of the main ones are chemical and chemical products, basic metals, alloys and metal products, food products, machinery and machine tools and textiles. This may not affect you directly, but it means price changes in products, such as vehicles, clothes, furniture, soaps and shampoo, among other things. Ferrous alloys, a group item, which falls in the basic metals subgroup, is one of the largest single contributor to the overall WPI at 8.06%. It can be seen that the manufactured goods form the largest index with about 2/3 of the whole basket. Obviously, if this group remains priced at much higher levels than what is justified, the cost of living will remain high. The potato chips packet, which should be available for 3 rupees, is sold at 10 rupees, the soft drinks that should be sold at Rs5/ are sold at triple prices. The branded clothes and all other consumer items are priced very high. The medicine that should cost 1 rupee is available at 10 rupees. Moreover, newer items are being added to the market with huge advertising, and in the initial stages of the introduction of the new items, these are priced very high with the aim of first emptying the pockets of those who can afford to pay that much price in return of their craze for new items, which becomes status symbols soon. It can be noted that the inflation basket misses the cost of accommodation altogether. The cost of the land and houses is nowhere mentioned. The rise in rents of the houses and shops is totally ignored. The truth, on the other hand, is that the inflation in the property rates is the biggest factor in the rise of economic disparity. Another item that is conspicuous by its absence is communication, the telephone, mobiles, internets, TV and entertainment. Surprisingly, Medicines and healthcare are also missing the basket despite the fact that no single family can avoid them. The first essential step for controlling inflation therefore is to revise inflation basket and make it more comprehensive. All the categories, and not merely the primary goods, need attention. Secondly, an autonomous price watch needs to be established. The net inflation is not always due to the increased rate of inflation of certain products. It is also due to the increased pressure on the pocket of common man due to his increased dependence on the market products, which are priced much higher than they should, even if their prices have remained constant for a long time. As has already been said, that the prices of new items and new services are often very high in the beginning and then they are reduced. But despite this deflation, it has an adverse effect because it increases the monthly expenditure of the people. And this is reflected in inflation in agricultural items and labor. There should be a mechanism by which the companies are pressurized, even if not legally compelled, to keep prices under check. The people should know how much they are paying for a certain brand instead of what they should ideally do. The injustices to the consumers must be exposed. I would like to suggest an autonomous price watch. This organization should regularly publish reports on the pricing mechanism of the companies and should suggest the ideal price for each product of the company. This would pressurize the companies to keep the costs in justifiable ranges, and will encourage competition among the companies producing similar items. There should be a limit to the cost of publicity adding to the cost of items. The corporate tax is levied on the net income of the companies, which allows them to spend heavily on advertising and transfer the cost to the consumers by raising the price. The people should not be made to pay for the reputation of the company. More people should be able to buy good items at a reasonable cost rather than fewer people being able to buy at exorbitant rates. The true economy is based on the amount of items and services, and not the currency, exchanged. Excerpted from Muslim Vision of Secular India, Destination and Roadmap by Dr. Javed Jamil. The approach paper is important because it is the first comprehensive approach paper for trying to analyze the Muslim perspective of India's goals of development and developing a national-level multifaceted, holistic strategy for the socio-economic empowerment of Muslims within the parameters of Islam, Indian culture and national interests.